Hello everybody, Strategic Sage here. Welcome back to Factorio Demystified. How do we intelligently go about resolving product shortages that are inevitable as we scale up our factory more and more? That's the topic for this episode. And we're looking here at our blue processing units, which of course, as we noted before, we do not have enough electronic circuits coming in for. And we want to have a practical step-by-step approach to resolving this. There are a couple of extremes you can really fall into that I want to avoid. One is simply trying to just calculate out everything, all the electronic circuits, for example, you're going to need for your whole factory. But it's natural for the demand in a factory to rise and fall, ebb and flow, particularly with different items going to be drawing off circuits in the supply depot. On the other hand, you don't want to just totally wing it and just guess, because you're not going to arrive at the right number that way either. So if we take just this production line, we noted before we want one of these per second, and they each require 20 electronic circuits. So we might say, okay, 20 electronic circuits per second. We're going to want more than that because we want some for other parts of the factory. So we might say 25 is a number. Maybe we want to double it. We want to go up to 40 per second is a number. I'm going to choose 30, but just somewhere in that range is where we would probably want to look at for this particular example. Looking at our electronic circuit production area here, we can see that the inserters appear to be working fine, the machines appear to be working fine. The issue that we have is pretty apparent. We don't have enough copper or iron plates coming in, not enough ingredients coming into the system, but they're consuming everything that is showing up. So we want to, whenever we're assessing this type of problem, go to the base of the problem. Keep working your way down the production chain until you reach a point where everything is working, and then work your way back up. So down here, we've got plenty of ore coming in, so that's not a problem. All of our furnaces, the iron ones here, the copper ones here, feeding the electronic circuits, all of those are working. So our problem is simply we don't have enough anymore. The initial amount we had set up, 7.5 electronic circuits per second, has served us well for many, many hours, but it is no longer good enough as we want to boost up to 30. So the quickest thing we can do here is just boost this up to where we are getting a full belt of copper and then 2/3 of iron. And so up from 9 to 12 furnaces on a side for copper, up from 6 to 8 for iron. And that will allow us to reach 10 electronic circuits per second, which of course is not nearly where we want to be, but it's what we can do within the limits of this setup. Now, we can upgrade our transport belts if we want to go further, but that is something that requires a little bit more thought. It's a possibility definitely worth considering, but if we do that, then we have to not just upgrade here, because if we still have yellow transport belts of ore coming in, for example, then we're not going to be able to fully feed all of this. So we would need to upgrade our whole ore bus all the way back to our mining operation. Do we really want to do that now? Well, the higher level transport belts are of course more expensive. The red transport belts 3 times the price of our yellow, and even more so for the blue ones we haven't invented yet. But it's also more conservation of space. What do you value? In this particular case, what I want to do is simply wait to do that upgrade until I can upgrade all the way. Let's just upgrade it once when we get the blue express transport belts, which means the other option then is I just put more setups in place. So once we get all of the efficiency modules in and we've extended our power and we've got our inserters down here, we're up to 10 electronic circuits a second. Then to get up to the 30, I'm just going to make 3 copies of this. That is a couple more stacks of smelting extended further out to the west, and we'll have a couple more of our green circuit production areas, and, just add more, literally. And then we just need to add in our power here. And of course, even this little bit will have somewhat of an impact while we work on handling adding to it. Here's our second electronic circuit production line now in place. We can see we've just moved it over to the west of this copper area because that's sort of in the way for the moment, but full sets, full belts of plates coming in, all of that's excellent. Ore appears to be good. And then as we move this up, We can see it's coming along here. And then over here, they're merging. And so we're putting as much as we can on that rightmost belt that we're going to pull from. And I do that multiple times as we move up. Because, for example, we pull some circuits off here, so I push more over. And then we pull some circuits off here, and I push more over with another splitter. And so on. And that way, every time I come to a point where the circuits are splitting off, I've got as much as possible in this right-hand lane. You can see it's staying full. You have to let it run through a while, maybe work on tweaking some other things in the factory while you wait for things to catch up. But as we move all the way up here, it's full even all the way up to this direction. Now it starts getting a little bit, not as much. You can see this is where it's really starting to catch up. But we have more of the processing units running now. It's not perfect yet, but it's definitely looking much better than it was before. Another item that we can notice, if we go all the way back down, is I do have a small bit of a hiccup here. Notice we've got gaps in this line, and what's happening there is the ones on the right, they're the older and less left in the ore patches, but I want to use them up, so they're being prioritized. I don't have enough splitters to push everything up to the top yet. I had another set here because of this iron ore line that goes off by itself, but I need another set here for the copper. So as you build things up, you just sort of evaluate. What are the problems? Okay, this is really simple. I can solve that little problem by just putting another set of priority splitters in here, and it's all going to work out. Here's our third area for the electronic circuits in place, and we can see we have quite a problem. We have very little copper coming in here at all. Plenty of iron, but very little copper, and even the copper is coming short here. If we backtrack, we can see that, yep, we have an ore problem now. So we've got to drop it down another tier. And if we go back here, we can see, well, we've got all of these splitters added. It's being pushed up. There just isn't enough coming in. Even our big copper ore field, all these miners are now running, and they just can't keep up with the demand. So we need to go get more copper. But can we just go mine it? Well, not really, because we're very soon going to run into sort of the domino effect, where you fix one problem and it reveals another problem. Oil is going to be the next bit. It's not immediately obvious yet, but we are going to be running short on oil with the small patch that we started out with. All of our refineries are running full tilt. Our plastic chemical plants are running full tilt. And what is happening is they're actually gradually being a little bit more plastic consumed than they can even produce. And of course, if we move up here, we can see that, all right, more advanced circuits are having to be built because of the increased demand now for processing units, and so they're consuming more plastic here. Move up to the processing units. See, this part is progress. We're jam-packed full now of our electronic circuits, and these are all running full, but again, they're producing more of the downstream resources. And since we have more of those coming out, then up here, our low-density structures, okay, more of these are in demand for our advanced science, and that means even more plastic going through. So it's a domino effect, and you've really got to, once you solve one problem, that doesn't mean you're done. It doesn't mean you can go back and expand the factory. You have to make sure it didn't cause any further problems down the road. Now, in order for us to get to our next issue then, which is going to be expanding our incoming crude oil, getting some more pump jacks out there, we're going to need to go out and do some more combat and clear some territory so that we can get to that. So that's going to be the topic of our next episode, and this is going to be a multi-episode arc of just moving through until we've restabilized the factory with the production level that we want with our advanced science.